All you white people in Canada, I have something to say to you. Please stop blaming us Indians for everything. We're definitely a part of the problem, but we're not the cause of it.
So, Canada's Immigration Department has uncovered over 10,000 fraudulent student acceptance letters just in this year. And 80% of those are linked to Indian students. If you're Canadian, you're probably not surprised by that, and it's not because we're racist, you just have to look around your environment and observe.
Canada is losing its culture really fast, and this is coming from an immigrant. A lot of people are not going to like what I'm saying, but it's the truth.
Right. So my parents, they came to this country with so much hope and so much ambition. Just like every family, they wanted to make a better life for their family, but they couldn't get a job in their field, right? Because people at that time didn't understand their accent. They didn't like their accent. People didn't like their skin color. They didn't like their food, right? They didn't like how it smelled. They didn't like how they smelled. And there was so much racism at this time, right? It was almost like the politicians were using racism to divide people so that they could get votes, right?
These Indian people are taking our jobs, pooping on our beaches, making Canada unlivable, right? If that's what you're thinking, this video is for you. Canadian immigration policies is not good at differentiating between a good immigrant and a bad immigrant.
5 years ago, I walked through this same neighborhood and heard English everywhere. Today, you're just as likely to hear Punjabi. For some, it's a sign of cultural richness. For others, it's a reminder that their city doesn't feel like it used to. And underneath that change, a tension is brewing, one that's spilling into job markets, workplace hiring, and even the way neighbors see each other.
So, Canada's Immigration Department has uncovered over 10,000 fraudulent student acceptance letters just in this year. And 80% of those are linked to Indian students. If you're Canadian, you're probably not surprised by that, and it's not because we're racist, you just have to look around your environment and observe. And this represents a significant increase of 30% compared to last year. And concerns are growing with some Canadian universities and colleges who are supposedly not authenticating their acceptance letters. If you're in a Canadian university right now, you totally know what I mean. People are saying that they have individuals in their class who can't even speak English in an English-speaking institution. I'm fed up just like everybody else because right now, as an actual Canadian citizen, I'm being treated worse than illegal immigrants coming into Canada.
All you white people in Canada, I have something to say to you. Please stop blaming us Indians for everything. We're definitely a part of the problem, but we're not the cause of it. Look at this one data point. Population growth under Justin Trudeau. This is the root cause of all the problems. And this does not yet include all the international students and temporary residents. This is why we have a housing and affordability crisis in this country. This is why our infrastructure is so stressed out. We did not have enough houses for this kind of growth. We did not have enough public transportation, enough family doctors. You've seen the lineups at Service Canada centers. There weren't enough of them. What Justin Trudeau did, Canada was not ready for it. Also, this is where we come in the picture as well. Almost half of these newcomers are Indians, and most of them don't feel the need to learn, adapt, or assimilate the Canadian culture because they can get by it. In cities like Brampton and Surrey, you don't even need to know English to get by. And us older immigrants were equally frustrated by all this. We never imagined Canada to be like this. Now, blaming these Indian newcomers won't do anything. It just creates more divide. Because the fact is, had it been Chinese, Arabs, Africans, Mexicans, or any other demographic, we would have same problems in just different ways. And yet, if you have to blame someone, blame these two. Justin Trudeau for doing all this, and Jagmeet Singh for letting him do it. Also, if the Member of Parliament in your riding is a Liberal or NDP, ask them why they are still supporting Justin Trudeau. And all my brown folks, share this video. Spread this message around.
Okay, someone please explain to me why no one in Canada hates Indian immigrants more than Indian immigrants. I'm back in Canada after a year, and I guess there's been a big influx of Indian immigrants, and because of that, there's been a lot of racism now towards them. You could literally open up any 6plus article, even if it's not related to the students or immigrants. It could be like Gardner Expressway flooding because of rain, and for some reason the top 10 comments are it's because of the Indians. But always mixed in with those white racist comments are Indian racist comments. What's up with that? At first I thought it was just one post, but I started seeing a trend, and it's so funny, like it's all the same. There's this comment underneath a video of like 6 dancing at Young and Dundas, all problems with Canada in one video. Brother, your name is Varun Sharma. And I've spoken to a couple as well. They'll be like, oh, these guys are ruining our reputation, man. We have built for 20 years and now they are just coming and ruining it. And because of this, it's becoming a feedback loop. The other day I was talking to one dude and he's like, yeah, bro, these immigrants are getting out of control. He had been in the country for 8 months. The only piece of advice I have to give to people like that, siding with the wolves will not save you when it's time to get eaten.
Canada added over 400,000 jobs last year. But for people like Emma, a marketing graduate from Montreal, that statistic feels meaningless. She's applied to over 70 positions, not one interview. Meanwhile, her classmate Raj, who moved from Punjab 2 years ago, was hired within weeks by a company where almost the entire staff shares his language and background. In industries like trucking, warehousing, and even IT, the proportion of Indian hires has risen sharply, sometimes over 60% in specific regions. Critics say it's an open secret. Companies tap into immigrant networks to fill roles quickly, creating workplaces where outsiders feel unwelcome. Supporters argue that these are jobs many Canadians simply don't want anymore.
There was a video going viral on TikTok a few days ago from a user by the name of Cody J53.
Oh man, I should have just skipped this stitch. But I won't, because I'm going to give my 2 cents. You just talked about this man for a $15 an hour job, and why is his video getting 1 million views? It's because his video resonates with Canadians, because most Canadians can see what is happening. And you being West Indies and Caribbean, maybe you're turning a blind eye to it. However, there's a lot of us who cannot turn a blind eye to it. 6 years ago, 5 years ago, jobs like this, jobs like Pizza, Pizza Hut, McDonald's, those mostly went to teenagers, right? Trying to enter the workforce. I have a 20-year-old son. A 20-year-old son who is also a minority. He couldn't find a job. It took almost 4 years for him to find a job. Why do you think that is? It's because of what this guy is saying in this video. And whether you choose to acknowledge that or not, it's happening. It's happening. I live in Ottawa. From the sounds of it, you're in Toronto. Any kind of fast food chain you attend in Ottawa is run by East Indians, which is totally cool. Like, I don't have an issue with them running businesses. What I do have an issue with is not hiring a diverse group of people. And that's not happening. And I've seen it happen before my very eyes. A dollar store, for instance, that was used to be multicultural gets a East Indian manager. And within 6 months of that happening, the multiculturalism is gone from that place. And the only people working there are East Indians. I won't support businesses like that. If I walk into an establishment and it's only East Indians, if it was only Black people, if it was only white people, if it was only Chinese people, not only East Indian, I'm walking out. I'm walking out. Because they are not supporting Canadians. They are not supporting Canada. They are out for themselves, and I'm not feeding them a fucking dollar. And if that bothers you, you need to do some deep soul searching and figure out, as a Canadian, why you are so unbothered that is happening. Because it is happening. That's why his video got 1 million views, because it's resonating with people, because people can see it. And you say that this guy is chasing clout, that's why he made the video. No, that was not my takeaway. My takeaway is that this guy posted the video out of frustration because he has likely been trying to find a job for quite some time and is having no luck. And he keeps running into the same issue. And it's not only him. It's a lot of Canadians. That's my 2 cents, whether you ask for it or not. Hello.
Canada is losing its culture really fast, and this is coming from an immigrant. A lot of people are not going to like what I'm saying, but it's the truth. As an immigrant myself, I say this with a lot of respect. Your job is to support the country, not change it. You left your home country for a certain reason. Now you're abroad into a different country. Your job is to adapt within the system. Your job is to speak the language. Your job is to understand the system, not overriding it with your own personal value or your own personal belief. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because that there's a video circulating in Quebec regarding international students protesting in universities stating that the French-speaking class must change. They must be taught in English. Do you understand how stupid that is? You chose to go to Quebec. You chose to go to a place where the majority of the people there, they speak French. So why are you there trying to change the rules? And that's just the tip of the iceberg among so many other things that is currently happening in this country. Now you have people that are complaining, stating that in order for them to get a job, they must speak Punjab or Chinese or Taiwanese or something, where this country's national language is French and English.
Language can be a bridge or a wall. In parts of British Columbia and Ontario, it's becoming common to see job ads quietly requesting Punjabi fluency. Employers defend this by saying it improves communication in teams where Punjabi is dominant. But for job seekers who don't speak it, the message feels exclusionary. What's driving this? Some say it's efficiency. New hires integrate faster if they share the same language. Others believe it's preference, a subtle way to hire your own in a competitive job market.
Right. So my parents, they came to this country with so much hope and so much ambition. Just like every family, they wanted to make a better life for their family, but they couldn't get a job in their field, right? Because people at that time didn't understand their accent. They didn't like their accent. People didn't like their skin color. They didn't like their food, right? They didn't like how it smelled. They didn't like how they smelled. And there was so much racism at this time, right? It was almost like the politicians were using racism to divide people so that they could get votes, right? And so my parents, as many immigrants tend to do, just had to settle. And so they got jobs at Tim Hortons. And they loved it. And they worked hours, like the craziest hours imaginable. Like I never saw them as a kid. We never spent any money. We never went on vacations. We never went to restaurants. They just worked and worked and worked. And they even got promoted. Eventually, right? They got promoted to assistant manager and manager, and they actually ended up buying their own Tim Hortons. And this completely changed my family's trajectory because we went from like the hood to living a nice middle-class suburban lifestyle. And so if you wonder why your kids can't get jobs at Tim Hortons, it's because we own your Tim Hortons. And see, because y'all never hired my parents for the jobs they wanted, they were forced to find their own way. And so maybe, my Canadian friends, it's time for you to be forced to find your own way instead of complaining on social media, right? Figure it out. Figure it out, Johnny. Figure it out, buddy.
These Indian people are taking our jobs, pooping on our beaches, and making Canada unlivable, right? If that's what you're thinking, this video is for you. Canadian immigration policies is not good at differentiating between a good immigrant and a bad immigrant. So people who want to come to Canada, live here, be part of the culture, and respect the reasons why Canada is one of the best places in the world to live are good immigrants. The other set of people who are coming into this country don't really care about the Canadian culture, don't really care about how things work here, don't really care about what's right and wrong here. As per Canadians, they identify with their home country much more than they identify with being in Canada, because the reason why they're here is to make money in Canadian dollars, which is most probably more powerful than the currency that they have back home. And they don't care about breaking the law, right? And that's the spectrum, because some people would break the law as much as just doing a cash job, and some people would break the law as much as, stealing a car. But Canada has projected itself in a way where these people, right, other than the good immigrants, these other kind of people, think Canada is a safe haven for them to just go and do anything they want without trying to be part of the community, without trying to understand the Canadian culture. The government, instead of identifying the difference in immigrants or people who are here, is just focused on creating policies to give people Canadian PR and eventually citizenship because they have a number in mind that they want to bring people in every year. If you think it's all Indian people's fault, look at your friends in Europe, right? Those countries have similar immigration issues happening, and they don't have Indian people as much as they have other people from other countries like the Middle East or something. So if you focus on the race, and if you force your society and eventually your government to not invite a certain race in your country, that's exactly what your government would do. Why don't you start asking the better question? Why don't you start pressurizing your government into looking into their immigration policies so that they get good kind of immigrants to permanently stay here and not any and everybody?
Last year, a whistleblower from a logistics company revealed internal messages showing Indian applicants being coached through the hiring process, sometimes with falsified references from overseas. His claim, Canadian-born applicants were quietly deprioritized. This isn't unique to one company. Informal referral chains, often in private messaging groups, can create hiring ecosystems invisible to outsiders. What some see as community support, others view as a closed door.
Has anyone ever realized the way that European countries are currently blaming all their problems on Muslims is exactly the same way they blamed all their problems on the Jewish community just 100 years ago, exactly around this time? There was riots and forced immigration and discrimination that happened to the Jews around the early 1920s and 1930s, which is exactly what's happening today to the Muslims in Europe. So it looks like history is repeating, and Muslims in Europe need to wake up before they find themselves in a chamber, just like what happened to the other group 100 years ago.
One of the dumbest things I've seen on the internet. If you're from Toronto and if you're from Ontario in general, you're going to notice a little trend to hate on Indian people. Especially when they're different from us, when they can't speak our language, when they have trouble communicating, knowing that this is their second language. And it's so weird to me that we say like, oh, they're taking over our jobs when Canadian citizens themselves are not willing to apply to most of the jobs Indian people are taking. And a lot of times these are international students and who need money, who are willing to tolerate a toxic work environment, who are willing to work in terrible conditions, which Canadian citizens honestly are like, I know my rights, I'm not going to put up with it. But at the same time, to turn around and be like, well, you are wrecking my country. Sorry, that's not the case. And let's not forget that the fact that a lot of these international students are here is because Canadian universities are greedy AF. These international students are quite literally referred to as financial units. The reason they charge so much more money is because that money goes into funding our gyms, goes funding our cafeterias, funding our facilities, and honestly, our universities cannot run without them. Did you know University of Toronto didn't shut down its university during the pandemic until after the international students showed up? Because these international students wouldn't be paying their fees unless they decided to come to campus. And can we forget the fact that immigrants are quite literally the backbone of this country? Unless you're native, you're an immigrant here, I'm sorry to say. And it's almost like this intellectual gap that we're trying to create. Like, we're different from them. We're distant. We're not like them. They're the ones destroying our country because, you know, we always need someone to blame. And you would think that a country that provides education from kindergarten to grade 12 completely free of charge would have more educated people when it comes to making these kind of racist comments. We need a reset. We don't want to be a minority in our own country. Nobody asked us for this. And it's always, always, always white Canadians. Some people with some internalized racism. This country was never a white country. Everyone's trying to be native so bad when that's not the case. And let's not forget the fact that most of Canada is uninhabited. We need people. We need people to come and stimulate our economy. We need people to build infrastructure. We need people here right now. Our our population is quite literally not being able to replace itself. Either we start popping out more babies or we got to get these people in somehow, you know? And it just so happens that a lot of Indian people are so talented, wallahi, they're so talented that when they come here, honestly, our country is benefiting in more ways in the long term than this kind of visual change you're seeing now. And even that, you having a problem speaks more about you than it does about Indian people.
Canada's history is built on immigration. Italians, Chinese, Ukrainians all faced backlash during their waves of arrival. But the current scale of Indian immigration, fueled by international students and work visas, is faster and more concentrated than previous eras. For many long-time residents, the rapid change feels disorienting. Grocery aisles feature new brands, malls play Bollywood music, and neighborhoods transform in a matter of years. For some, this is exciting diversity. For others, it feels like displacement.
When I was growing up in Canada as a teenager, the best way to get a job was to go into a franchise, like a fast food joint, and get a job. These jobs primarily were for teenagers. These were not career stuff. And now the government subsidizes international students so Canadian teenagers can't get these jobs. This is discrimination. At least mix it up. Okay, have some international students, I don't care, but you gotta throw some Canadian citizens in there. They're all international students. The worst part is our government is subsidizing this crap, meaning that our tax dollars are paying for these international students to get a job, while our Canadian teenagers trying to get these jobs can't. This needs to stop. I don't want to pay taxes so international students get a job. What makes them special? Like, seriously. Canadian citizens first, international students or national people after. Or if you have permanent residency here, that's fine too. I don't care. Like, these international students are going back eventually, but why are they getting the job and not our Canadian teenager citizens? Anyway, Canada of the old is gone so far. I hope it comes back in the future. I don't know when, but I really hope it comes back.
I'm going to blow your mind, and I'm going to show you why it's so hard to get a job in Canada right now. You don't stand a chance. Keep anonymous. I don't want to be persecuted by my own people. He's Indian. And for those who don't know, the majority of the stories I get, including scams, they're from people of Indian descent. Shout out to you guys. Ever wonder why Canadians can't find a job? I have something crazy going on with proof. Check on this company, and I blacked it out because I don't want them to get any business. Unless there's enough comments, and then maybe I'll expose it in the next video. They function as a legit business, and there are more like them. I have personally dealt with them. They take on every immigrant like me and give us online crash course in IT. You don't even need to have a background in IT. It goes for like 3 to 6 months. Now that program costs around $900 to $1,200. Then they do a training online. What are the questions that the recruiters are going to ask? And what are the questions you need to give them? They have a tailored answer, which we have pretty much put to heart and tell them like verbal diarrhea. They're not qualified. They're being trained to trick these people into thinking they're qualified. It gets better. They also take our resume and set us up with fake experience, fake reference number. I have more I can send you along with the contract and receipts. I have that. Watch this. The setup with a fake resume is like a legitimate business and a legitimate people on the other end. When they call, they will vouch for you. And mind you, these people have absolutely no idea what they learned and are just fed, just scratch on the surface knowledge and pre-made answers. Now, $1,000 like this setup doesn't sound like a lot, but the thing is where they make the money is from post-dated checks. So they will set up interviews with IT firms all around Ontario, and the interviewer will ask the questions that they gave us exactly, and we will answer that exactly to those answers. Now, if we land a job in full-time basis, they will take 12 post-dated checks. One for each month. The stipulation is that they will take 20% of our pay check for their services for a full-time position and 25% of a check on a contract position via these post-dated checks. Now, can someone tell me, is this legal? Because if it's not, I think I need to file a report with the police. This service also goes on pause if we end up losing the job for any reason and restarts once they find you another job in Ontario. They also provide tech support for the guys who will end up finding the job to do the job they got properly in the IT sector. So they have other people actually doing the job that you're supposed to be doing. Now, here's the contract. The consultant agrees that in the event the candidate gets placed on a contract job, and then it goes in detail, 30% of the billable hours for 12. Just put it on pause. You guys can read all this for yourself. The consultant agrees to pay the agreed upon commission of 20% on gross salary, not even after tax, gross salary in 12 monthly installments by providing 12 post-dated checks before the start date of employment. insane. He sends me the resumes. This is the stuff that they know will get fed in when you put your resume online. When you submit it, there's keywords that it's looking for. It's got everything they need. Here's another thing with responsibilities. Like, it's got everything. Assisted and API documentation, you use Swagger. This is all the fake job experience. So when they get hired and they call someone who supposedly worked here, that number is fake. The person on the other end giving the reference is fake. It's all fake. Here are all the questions that they ask for. Contract role, you'll ask for 50 an hour. Full-time, you'll ask for 75K plus bonus plus benefits. Are you incorporated? Response, yes. They give everything. And I'll move out of the way so you can read some of these questions on your own. But there's endless task items, action item, handing job feeds from me. I will be sending you some new intel every week on new job openings on the market. You have to update your resume this is all, they've broken it down to a science. That's why you're not getting the jobs that you're applying for. The people who are getting hired are not qualified for the job. They lied about their experience. They lied about their resumes. They shouldn't be there in the first place. And when they get stuck, they have someone on the back end to provide the support to do the job.
You guys want to hear a horrifying story that's coming out of Ontario, Canada? A grown man was caught trying to pay money to a 15-year-old girl to have intercourse with her, and he was given a lesser sentence because he was an immigrant. You heard me right. A man tried to have intercourse with a child, and he was given a conditional discharge to help him stay in Canada. There is something deeply evil about a government that chooses to keep a pedophile in the country instead of protecting its kids. The whole justification that the judge gave was essentially, well, if he gets deported and has his career screwed up for this, it's too harsh of a sentence because other people have gotten lesser sentences for the same crime. Well, that's crazy. Instead of doing that, how about we actually just give the guy a super harsh sentence, and then moving forward, we make super harsh sentences for anybody and everybody who thinks that this is an acceptable thing to do. This is just another case study in how Canada is being overrun by morally corrupt, morally ambiguous idiots who have no idea about the consequences of their actions. This judge had the opportunity to do the right thing and take a strong stance, and instead they chose empathy and fairness.
Fixing this divide requires action from both sides. Employers can adopt blind hiring to focus on skills over networks. Community groups can mentor across ethnic lines. And immigrants themselves can lead by ensuring diverse hiring in their own businesses. Canada's future will be decided by how it navigates moments like this. Will communities pull further apart or find a way to share opportunity? History suggests it's possible, but only if the conversation moves beyond blame and into solutions. Every immigration wave brings growing pains. The challenge isn't stopping change, it's managing it so everyone feels they belong. The question is simple: what kind of Canada do we want to build? Share your perspective in the comments.